Hey, what is up guys? It is your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be talking about Team Secret, but most importantly we're going to be talking about the farming patterns of Matamaman's Terrorblade and how Nisha plays around him. Nisha was playing Magnus this game, it was a mid-Magnus with the Terrorblade, and I want to show how Team Secret really plays around this, because I think a lot of people struggle. They always feel the need to make plays, make moves around the map, take towers, go for kills, but you don't always have to do that, and we'll kind of see how Team Secret plays around that concept in this video. So if you're excited for that, smash the like button, subscribe, and now let's get into it. And of course, subscribe to the GameLeap website. I've made a couple videos that I really want you guys to check out as of late. I just made a video where, in my recent Battle Cup, I talk about how I played against an Abaddon Lich lane, a lane that was absolutely brutal. I still managed to get out of it okay, get enough farm, and recover, and I talk about all those decisions throughout the game in the moment, and so I think it's really useful. So click the link down below, sign up, and now let's get into the video. So the first thing I'd like to discuss is the last pick that Team Secret had. I thought it was a fascinating pick that, while it can be hard to implement these things in pubs, it's very good to understand the concepts that Team Secret implements to win their games. So right here they have a Magnus and a Terrorblade, and usually what Team Secret has been doing is they pick Magnus and they put it position 5, right? They put it in the support role. Puppy just buys like a cloak and a glimmer or maybe a late blink, and he just empowers his carry while the rest of the heroes make space. But in this game, they switch it up, and I like that a lot, because if we look at the laning stage right now, Alliance is a very threatening off lane, especially against Magnus. Magnus can't do anything to Beastmaster. It's a miserable matchup. You can't trade, you can never close the gap for a skewer, and so all in all, it's just a horrible matchup, and so they have to switch it up. Well, they don't have to, but they probably want to switch it up. And that's exactly what they do with their last pick here. And as you're going to see, they go for the Enchantress. Now, why Enchantress? It's a pretty straightforward reason. Beastmaster is countered by Enchantress, for the pure fact that when you enchant his boar, you take it over, and you can win the lane just by preventing Beastmaster from having a boar. Even if you don't harass him back with it, you prevent him from harassing your carry, getting denies, and a lot of last hits in the laning stage. So what's really interesting about this game is the major fact that Matamaman has a horrible start. He dies with meta trying to fight the rune. And now I know a lot of people might not fully understand Terrorblade, but basically Terrorblade is largely dependent on having a good game just based off his early game metamorphosis, which is crazy because a lot of players won't even use metamorphosis for the first 5 minutes into the game. Every single Hanmar player will pop meta in the first wave or the second wave. The only time you don't pop it in the first wave is if it's like under your tower and you're just CSing and you're not putting any pressure on denies or the opponent. But he ends up dying at the rune. And keep in mind, this is not a good matchup for TB. The Beastmaster matchup is good early on because he's all physical and you have high armor, but Rubik can be a bit sketchy and they can keep the lane back and kite you out over time. So it's not horrible, but it's definitely not great, and so having no meta is a big detriment to his laning stage. And as we skip a little bit ahead here, the main thing to note from Matamaman is he has a Ring of Regen to sustain his lane, and then really all he has to do in this matchup is just get a lot of CS. And the key thing to understand here is that the earlier and earlier you build up a high CS score and you get better at CSing, you actually can put more pressure on your opponent. And that's how I want people to look at it. Usually people last it for the pure intent, or just get gold for the pure intent of buffing themselves for later into the game. But you guys need to switch your thinking. Even on a hero like Terrorblade, you can win your lane if you last it well because you can invest that gold into items that allow you to win the lane. And we'll sort of see Matamaman do that here. Now, it is actually a high kill threat lane because Enchantress, as I said, is good against Beastmaster. She takes the boar, slows him for 20% when the boar is level 2. And now, because Matamaman had such a good start to the laning stage, he's able to make this psychotic play. At minute 6, this is a ridiculous amount of farm, but it's all because he's good at last hitting 47 and 13 at minute 6, 48. How crazy is that? And it's not like he jungled, it was mostly lane creeps. I would say it was like 95% lane creeps. But now, because he hits this timing, he understands that this is probably his only gap to really try to get a kill on the Beastmaster if he wanted to. Reason being is once Beastmaster hits 6, you can't really go for a kill. In fact, you can get kited out and die. And so S4 gets gone on here, and he just didn't expect to take that much damage. Who would, right? Who expects to just get insta-killed by a TB 6 minutes in? Well, the thing is, with his good amount of CS, he can make that play. Unfortunately, he ends up going down as well. Great play by Alliance. Clearly, it was some sort of a bait as well. That's why S4 committed hard too. But it's just one of those things where carry players never make those plays. How often would you see like a 2k or 3k MMR Terrorblade make a play like that based around a timing? Basically never, and so that's what I want you guys to think about. The next concept to note, even though it's a niche, it's something I learned over my years of playing competitive Dota and by watching competitive Dota. And basically anytime I saw a team pick mid Magnus and a greedy carry, the greedy carry will almost always TP mid at some point in the game. And the reason for this is because mid is convenient, the Magnus is mid in the first place, and so you can empower and start taking the triangle. Literally just because you can take the triangle, it's efficient, makes a stack for himself, very, very nice, can farm up that stack with Empower, and all of a sudden he's, off to a very, very good start. Now, because he has a Magnus, he can obviously full-time jungle. Otherwise, this is not the play you would want to make. For all you Terrorblade players, or, just the hard carry players in general, you don't want to just full-time jungle this early into the game. You always want to jungle around a lane. You always want to jungle towards a lane, towards the free lane, or to TP top if you think you can farm that lane in those jungle camps. But in this game, because he is Empower, it's an exception, and it's an exception you guys should understand as well. When you have this spell and it's maxed out this early on, it's totally fine. In fact, it's recommended to actually take the triangle. The fact that he can jungle Ancients this early into the game is great. It's extremely useful, actually. I'm a huge fan of this next play as well. In my opinion, this is like really, really next level. I don't even think most pro players would do what Matoma does here. I mean that. I really, really mean that. So try to learn from it, and I'll give you my assumption of what I think he's doing. So he TP's top here, pushes a tower. Pretty common for Terrorblade. If you get a lead, right? If you had a good laning stage and you're farming very quickly and you happen to be top net worth like he is in this game, it's great to use your meta timing to siege the top tower. If you think it's safe. In this game, there's a Rubik. Pretty meh matchup for TB early on. Jakiro, Timber, definitely not good. But he can go top here because he sees the Rubik bottom and he feels pretty comfortable because he's being protected by two teammates. But once he sees the Timber saw counter come top, what does he do? Without hesitation, he goes mid because two heroes are top on his team, two are bottom, mid is completely free, and he's forced rotations to top. Especially Timber, which is his main threat this game. And so he forces that rotation and immediately TPs out. And I thought that was really interesting because a lot of players, they would really force top with their meta. They'd be like, oh, I came top with the meta, I have to keep going. But that's not the case, it really isn't. And I want to go over this next clip very carefully here because I think a lot of people, they hear this concept of, taking aggressive farm on carries, no matter what carry they're playing, and they try to apply it to every single circumstance and just always take aggressive farm, and it's bad. I mean, just looking at this game from what we've looked at, he's been jungling most of the game, taking very little engagements, putting very little pressure, besides the top push, which is very cool. Now here, he actually just walks mid with his meta again, okay, pretty standard, starts sieging the tower, and now why is this safe? That's like the big question here. Why is this safe? Because typically hitting a tier 1 tower like this with the majority of your team not close is a horrible idea, but he saw them pushing top. And so this is what people need to do. They need to make sure the attention is not on them if they're going to make high aggressive plays. Attention is a really big concept that people don't think about. You really have to consider what people are paying attention to. Now in a pro game, they're going to be able to pay attention to more than one thing. But it's still not that easy for them to look around the map. It's hard. Think about it, guys. How hard is it to look at the minimap? Very difficult. It's not like pros have it perfectly. They don't see everything. They don't react to everything. And so here, just because of this concept of attention and the enemy team being top, he can freely hit the mid tower. And this is what I love. Now the enemy team is mid and he immediately shifts to top. And this is him understanding that, it's just not a good Terrorblade game until later on into the match. Even sniping a courier with his illusion, very nice. Also, even stacking the mid wave with his illusion for a small period of time. But I just want you guys to see this. Becoming a good carry player very often is about being able to instantly, not 5 seconds after you see it, 10 seconds after you see it, instantly being able to say, okay, the enemy team has shown 3-4 heroes mid, they're probably all mid, I can now go pushing top and booking it to top, not going back to your base, because what most people do is they freak out, they're like, oh, my tower's getting pushed, and they either TP back to defend the tower when they are unbelievably underfarmed, or they just sit on their high ground in their base and do nothing. So in this next upcoming clip here, Matoma ends up dying mid. And I think it's a really cool idea to kind of look at when pros die as well. Often I just look at when they're stomping, but why would a pro die? What would cause Matoma, the best carry player in the world, arguably, to die mid? So let's look at it. Paying attention to the minimap right now, we see the Lifestealer and the Beastmaster running backwards. That's key. Just that. Look at the minimap again. I'm going to replay it. After they push out this creep wave mid, what direction do they run? Okay, ready? Right here. Which direction do they run? Backwards. Backwards to the right, specifically. Which generally would insinuate to you that they're backing off. But this is Alliance. It's a professional match. They do those things intentionally to make you feel comfortable. Think about that. Like, that's how deep these games can get. They literally will show on the creep wave, both act like they're backing, and then pop a smoke, which is what they do, right? They pop a smoke. So they bait out the wave. He's not going to hop in the Beastmaster. Very nice. And they're going to go on Matoma mid. And that's why he felt safe. He also has 2 teammates next to him. So, like, you know, that's another reason. In fact, I even think Secret sort of saw this coming. Once again, another layer to the pro, to the pro level. They even saw this weird smoke coming that most players wouldn't even think about in the first place. But they saw it coming. You know, it's just too much damage. As we talked about, not a great Terrorblade game. This is one of those Terrorblade games where there's so much magical damage through the supports where he needs 3 items to come online. And that typically that's the timing for Terrorblade. Against magical damage counters, it's 3 items. And this next clip here is a great example of that 3-item timing. And this is where, you know, Matoma is just such a good carry player. Because he did everything in his power. Now, he's 1-4 and he's fed a bit. Because he's done everything in his power to get as much farm as possible and has 318 CS in 25 minutes, he has 3 items in 25 minutes. And therefore, he can take this fight at the Ruin, right? Nisha skewers across, they pick up the bounties, he gets roared, but now he's actually pretty strong, and so he can pop his meta, do a lot of damage to the lifestealer, and actually survive through the burst. Right? He ends up getting RP'd here by Hanskin. A very nice play by the Rubik, and there is quite a bit of follow-up, but the Jakiro kind of messes up. He pops the Ice Path very late, and Matoma actually able to get off his ultimate just barely gets it off onto S4, shredding the Beastmaster, follows up onto the Timber. They get that kill as well. Unfortunately, they couldn't follow up for the next, but yeah, 3-item timing comes online there, allows him to get all of those kills and stay alive at the same time. And that's what makes you a good carry player. It's being able to mirror the enemy team, avoid ganks to the best of your ability, and even if you are having a bad game, not tilting out and continuing to focus on getting to the timing that allows you to win the game. Also, you have to know the timing that wins you the game, and I hope I've given you some perspective on that. By the way, guys, what I'm talking about with this 3-item timing, it applies to every single illusion hero in the game, as well as heroes like PA and Animage. Generally, a lot of safe lane heroes are just very bad against magical damage in the early parts of the game, but then later into the game, they kind of don't care about it. Or at least around that 30 to 40 minute mark when they're super far ahead of everyone else, and they have a BKB often. Now, in this final clip of the game where they're able to clean up on Alliance and finish off the match, I just want to show how he uses illusions to actually get vision. I think this is something people forget to do. Like, even when people have micro heroes such as Nature's Prophet, Lycan, Beastmaster, they just forget to use them for vision, right? This is one of the most powerful things you can do in the late game. Just being able to scout out the enemy team with something that, you know, you don't care if it dies. And that's exactly what they do here. He's going to scout out with illusions. And if he doesn't see the enemy team, he either assumes they're bottom or he assumes they're smoked. Now here, he's probably going to assume they're smoked because if they were bottom, they would push out bottom, but they're not pushing out bottom. And so they're probably smoked and they can play around that. And in fact, they scan here, they end up scanning out the enemy team and they can say, okay, we can actually walk up. And now look what happens. Because he scouted out the area and because he assumed they aren't bottom and because he assumed they smoked, they get this counter initiation. Pretty cool, right? And so, yeah, they go for this DD. This is kind of reminds me of, what was it, the CI7 clip where Miracle gets 4-staffed into the DD, even though he didn't even get the DD. But yeah, they saw it coming. Really nice RP onto 2. Gets a beautiful ulti onto the Beastmaster. Pops a Satanic. Is going to be able to just barely live through it because of this lifesteal. And gets feta cheese. I mean, my gosh. Whew, like, that is so beautiful. It really is, because you know that Zai is yelling at him saying, you know, make an inventory slot, because when you hand off a cheese, it's not like it has a cooldown or anything like that. And so he's like, make a slot, passes off the cheese, gets put into Matoma inventory, he pops the cheese, heals up. My gosh, that is absolutely beautiful. I mean, you gotta love to see that, guys, right? And that's the type of stuff that, like, you know, makes Team Secret. It's not like those plays are required to get to high MMR, like insane stuff like that. It's definitely not. But, you know, to be the top team in the world, stuff like that is definitely required. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please smash the like button, subscribe. Of course, consider signing up to the GameLeap website. If you want more videos like this one, you want to learn about the pro scene and how they think. I study it every single day. And so if you want to learn from that, definitely go check it out. Hope to see you guys there. And yeah, let's watch as he kills the throne. It's a beautiful sight to see. By the way, he never upgraded to Hurricane Pike, which I agree with. I think Hurricane Pike is usually just not good. All right, see ya. Peace. Before you leave, just want to say a quick message. If you're trying to get better at Dota or you just enjoyed that video, I know this is pretty general and you're going to hear this quite a bit from me, but I recommend you sign up to GAMELEAP.com. Why? Because I put a lot of effort into the content over there, and generally the effort I do there is different from the content you're going to see here on YouTube. It is different. In fact, I usually go a lot more in depth on topics or into niche topics that help you get to the next level even faster. Because on YouTube, I often have to keep it more mainstream, and that's even why I'm putting it at the end of this YouTube video. That's why this is at the end, because a lot of people just watch 5 minutes, they skip through just for like the dopamine spike. But if you are interested in actually getting better at Dota, I recommend you go to the description down below, get your discount right now by clicking the link, sign up, use the discount code that you're going to see there, and I hope to see you there right now. So click it, and yeah, thanks for watching.